Hey everyone, and welcome to the COBECAST. My name is Joe, the photo video guy for the College of Business and Economics at Boise State. This is the place where we go beyond the classroom to explore research and talk about topics of interest to business students and beyond. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Ann Hamby, an assistant professor in our Department of Marketing here at Boise State's College of Business and Economics. Her research focuses on consumer psychology. She's written dozens of articles and has been cited over 1,500 times in the last decade. She's here today to talk about marketing and storytelling, and welcome to the COBECAST.
Thanks for having me.
We've got a lot to talk about, and while I'm personally very excited about this because I feel like we come from two sides of the house. There's like the business approach to marketing and the content approach to marketing. And you've done a lot of the research, and I've been doing a lot of the camera stuff, and so I'm really curious to talk about storytelling in this capacity. But we created the space so we could get to know faculty and students a bit better. So from the top, talk about your path to Boise State. Have you always had your sights set on teaching and higher education?
So, no. I had a little bit of a circuitous path to, both teaching and research as well as Boise State. So I'm a first generation student, and so I started off my undergraduate probably changing my major 50 times. And it took one professor who said, hey, you're working on a degree in psychology. Have you thought about marketing? Because if you want to do psychology, like the job market's really tough out there. So marketing is really aligned, and this is something that might open up some doors for you. And I said, okay. And he said, also, have you thought about grad school? And there wasn't really anything I had thought about. So I start this program. I, end up in a PhD program in marketing, and I start moving along. And after about 2 years in this program, I'm just going this is not what I thought it was going to be. I don't care about selling toothpaste. I wanted to change the world. I wanted kind of a social justice sort of angle. And so I actually, I would never do this today. I have no idea how I had the chutzpah to go do this, but I quit my program. I didn't have any follow-up plan. And so I go into my advisor's office and I tell him this, I don't want to do this. And he said, okay, all right. I thought he was going to try to talk me out of it. But no, he's like, you're not the first person to quit on me today. Do you know what you're going to do? And I said, no. He said, okay, well, there's this opportunity in South Africa. I need a program manager. Are you willing to go and manage this Kellogg funded project for a year? And I'm like, fine. Yeah, that sounds great. So anyway, I show up in South Africa, and this all relates because it was a narrative based program. What that means is it was kind of positive youth development, teaching kids, how to say no to peer pressure, bullying, alcohol consumption, things like that. And they compared sort of the standard health education curriculum with this narrative-based intervention. And my job there was to just make sure the project stayed on the rails. I wasn't actually implementing anything. I was just kind of making sure the data got collected, et cetera. But what really sticks with me is one day I was walking down the hall, and I could see on one side the classrooms where the standard educational curriculum was being used, and it was someone up in front of the classroom just droning on don't do this, kids. And then on the other side of the hall is this classroom where the narrative-based intervention is, and it's people acting things out, and the students also have a part in it, and so it's kind of like a play and a performance, and they're just having a good time, they're really alive. And so looking at these two methods and then looking at the data afterwards, or learning, it actually made a difference. The students who were involved in the narrative-based intervention learned more, their beliefs changed, et cetera. And so I'm sitting here looking at this going wait, this is marketing? I can study this? Yeah. Okay, sign me back up. And so I go back to my advisor and I say, please take me back. Actually, I do want to do this after all. And so if you look at my resume, it looks very seamless. Yes, I was in this but no, I quit and I came back. And then and so after I kind of got interested in storytelling and that I learned that I could look at it from a marketing angle, that's what brought me into academia. And then the path to Boise was also circuitous, but I just needed a change. I was in New York and I just wanted to try something new. And hey, there was a job opportunity at Boise State, and I thought, I'll try it. If I don't like it, I could go somewhere else. And hey, I love it. So here I am.
And how long have you been here?
5 years.
5 years. Awesome. It sounded like your supervisor's okay, I hear you. You just need to go out and experience it.
Kind of.
Instead of reading about it, go somewhere where there's and I don't know if that relates. I don't know enough about it. That's the Montessori method, kids engaging with their education rather than having their education fed to them. like they're engaging with that narrative like you talked about?
Yeah, I think probably he did have the wisdom, and I'm just putting this together at the time. He might have, yeah, like that was his intention there, rather than just like, I need someone to do this. But no, I think you're right. And I think that's such a broad lesson too, right? Like living the thing, trying the thing, to the value of internships, right? It's like, well, if you hate it, at least you know something you don't want to do. And if you love it, great.
That's where the rubber meets the road. It's where you find out, okay, all these things that I learned, the critical thinking skills that I have, they're coming together, and now I can see what life after graduation is going to look like. Do I actually want to do that? Because that's kind of where you find out.
For sure.
Yeah. For those watching, listening, who may not have had a class with you yet, how do you describe what you do here at Boise State?
So I am in the marketing department, and I teach an undergraduate consumer behavior course pretty regularly. And that one's really fun because it's all about how we perceive the world and make judgments and decisions, and how our culture influences what we consume and do. So
which class was that?
Consumer behavior.
What's the course?
Marketing 307.
Marketing 307.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I get to teach in the Career Track MBA program, the Fundamentals of Marketing course. And those are, I guess, the two that I teach pretty regularly. Yeah.
Okay. That sounds awesome. When I think about storytelling, specifically in marketing, yeah, it influences so many of the decisions we make. But what we wear, who we hang out with, like everything is influenced by story.
Totally.
And we'll get into this more, but I think everyone in marketing, whatever side you fall on, whether it's the business side or the content creation side, fundamentally, I think we understand that storytelling is the most powerful thing. I don't know how you engage with your students on that topic. I feel like there's a lot of overthinking that goes on when we think about like algorithms and trends in social media. And really, it can all be reduced back down to what compelled you to act or engage. And it's probably a good story.
For sure. And like in several dimensions, right? Like, what is the story that I'm believing that, you know, if I buy this product and use it, that I'll become, right? So like, I want to be like this type of person. And it's a story we're telling ourselves, right? That brands help tell us, right? Or even just like a really simple kind of like testimonial, like someone bought this product, used it, liked it. It's like, okay, right? Yeah. So that's like a more functional type of story. But I completely agree. Like, we are storytelling beings. So we're not this rational economics driven, which, apologies to my colleagues in the other departments that kind of like their entire fields are staked on us being rational. But no, I think it's the stories that seduce us. And then we come up with justifications after the fact, like the real rational reasons why we do things. Yeah.
Right. When it was really probably based on some emotion that a story elicited from you.
For sure.
Yeah. What got you interested in storytelling generally? Sure, it's got broad marketing and business applications, but was it movies, TV, music? Where did it start?
Well, it did kind of like jumping back to that like initial exposure to the power of storytelling that I saw in that like field context. Like, I think I've always been a consumer of story. I think everyone is, like, just fundamentally, right? It's so easy how, like, look, we can check out for hours in a movie theater, you know, like 4 hours will go by. You watch the entire Lord of the Rings franchise versus like going to a 4-hour lecture. It's like, oh my goodness, right? So I think we all love story in some way. But like, I think what really got me interested in studying it was like realizing that it's kind of this Trojan horse. It's not, people think of story as unserious. It's entertainment. It's fluff. It's anecdote. But wow, look at the power that it has. And I think that my at least understanding of like the research on persuasion to that time really kind of focused on the like, how do statistics and rational arguments, like how are people persuaded under that paradigm, and kind of like the story influence paradigm like doesn't really fit in that model. So that's where I was like, okay, I kind of want to learn a little bit more about like what is it that's going on in here and out there that like drives people. Yeah.
Right. And this might just be me. I've never approached marketing from a business standpoint. Like I graduated from the communications college here at Boise State and have figured out the marketing elements of it along the way. And so I feel like stories, it's refreshing to hear it being talked about in the College of Business and Economics, because I feel like when I was in college, granted I wasn't a business student, talking about stories was something that was almost relegated to communicators, to creators. Like they have the tools and just like maybe just the creativity to engage with people and tell a story. But if you embrace the power of storytelling and learning how to do that for yourself, even as a business student, like broad implications, massive impact.
For sure. I mean, you think about like this is the era of self-branding. We have to, well, some people would say unfortunately, some people would say fortunately, like we are brands that we have to represent out in the world. And like a really great way to do that is to be able to share your story. Like, why do you care about what you're doing? Where do you want to go? It's all like talking about the self, but in story format, right? So I think like the extent to which we can all become better storytellers kind of like helps us all achieve our goals.
Yeah. I think the ultimate goal, and where storytelling kind of stops working, even if it's good, is if it, and this is kind of what you were getting at with, I think you were getting at with talking about being a personal brand and putting yourself out there and figuring out messaging and that kind of thing. If at the end of a good story, you're not inviting people into something, if community isn't what follows storytelling, I mean, what's the point?
Right. Like, is this what you're saying? So storytelling used for kind of like persuasive or manipulative ends, sort of like, you know, like a salesy story. We all kind of know, like, I'm thinking about the, like, let's raise money for orphans, sort of overwrought, maudlin, emotional stories. Like, nah, like we can dismiss those. But it's like, you can tell when a story has a core of authenticity to it, right? So like authentic stories, I think that's probably the key thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought about the ethics of storytelling and brands that have, since we're talking about business, that have managed to tell a good story and haven't put out some salesy pitch, which I think that method of approaching consumers is either dead or dying. Brands who have put out a story and instead of asking you to buy something and take action in that way, they've invited you into something. Whether that's something simple through like hashtags or maybe there's like a group on social media that you can join. Maybe there's some way for you to engage. And once you're engaging in that way, you're more likely to buy their product.
For sure.
So they don't even focus on like buy this thing. They focus on identify with us. And then from there, through that story, now we kind of got you on the hook.
A classic example that springs to mind is the like Patagonia "Don't buy this jacket" ad, right?
Yeah.
So it's like they're telling you, right? Like, their values are more about sustainability and it's less about like buy this thing. And then, people love Nike because I think Nike's become a great storyteller in terms of like, everyone's an athlete, like perform, like you achieve your goals.
Their commercials have been so good.
Right, exactly. They're good stories.
They make you feel like you want to be an athlete, even if you're not.
Run up that hill.
Like the nostalgia just floods in. I'm like, I used to play baseball and I felt like that. It's so interesting. I want to talk about a previous bit of research you did on the verbal persuasion in marketing, multi-method meta-analysis of analytics, of analytical and narrative processing. Wow. You recently wrote about analytical versus narrative processing of information, specifically ads. You also mentioned that science hasn't done a great job of predicting who or why someone will gravitate toward each one. And these two things are very different. Talk about what you found in that research.
So this was an interesting project because it was a meta-analysis. And what that is like taking all the papers that are published, in a certain field and basically like statistically sort of aggregating them, right? Because it's like with storytelling, studying it is kind of tough because maybe storytelling works this way in one context in advertising, but then if you go like an ad for a car, but then if you use storytelling in an ad for perfume, maybe it's different, right? So this is all of the papers on storytelling and then all of the papers on sort of like rational persuasion, what we're calling like the use of statistics and things like that. So like looking to see which one's more powerful. And does it depend on certain types of things? And we found an overall main effect, kind of unsurprisingly, that yes, the storytelling approach typically is more powerful than the more rational approach. But there are certain circumstances where that works. Like, so for instance, if you're talking about what we called like a utilitarian product. So you have utilitarian versus hedonic products. Hedonic products are things that are like more sensory, chocolate, perfume, things that are like a little bit more emotionally based. And utilitarian products are things like paper clips and gasoline and like,
things that are harder to associate with those senses.
For sure.
Like they accomplish a very practical thing.
Exactly. Yeah. You buy them for like the thing they do. And so maybe unsurprisingly, what this meta-analysis revealed is depending on what you're talking about, like if you're trying to sell this more functional product, align your persuasive approach with that. So be more rational, be more factual. Whereas if you're talking about these more emotional, sensory types of products, storytelling works really well for those. So, yeah, it's not to say that one is better than the other, but it's that, one, like tailor it to the right context.
Right. And I think good storytelling naturally does those two things. Go like in the world of content marketing, and you may have heard this, there's 3 tenets that good content needs to stand on to make an impact. And that is its ability to educate, entertain, or get people to feel some sort of emotion. And doing any one of those things is great. But if you can do all 3 of those things, you've created gold. And so that sounds like also just another way of saying creating content that pairs analysis with narrative is best. Like there are these elements of what makes a good story. And I think we can all acknowledge that the more of them you can pack together, the better message you're going to have, the better story you're going to have. And storytelling just naturally does that, right?
I was just going to make one comment about like what is so fascinating about storytelling and how consumers react to it. Yes, certainly there are best principles. Like I'm sure you know how to tell a good story, but there's still an element of like timing and uncertainty. And I think about this in the context of Super Bowl ads. Mm-hmm. Every year there's always these Super Bowl ads that come out that companies spend millions on. And a lot of them are stories, but some of them are like, the number 1 or number 2 spot. And then some of them really flop, right? It's like,
right.
And they, of course, are spending tons of money on the test marketing, right? They're going on through this with audiences. And so it always amazes me how advertisers and marketers who should know better still somehow tell these stories that don't seem to land.
I haven't thought about that. Yeah, everyone's paying millions. And they didn't create it in a vacuum. Several people gave it a green light, made it to the Super Bowl, and it didn't go anywhere. Like what? How do you not plan for that, or test for that?
I guess to me, it just says like either the people who are making decisions are not really good at like either reading the data or evaluating like the quality of a story, or there is still an element of like the je ne sais quoi. We don't know exactly how it's going to land with the consumer, right? So like I think there's still some uncertainty, and that's what's kind of cool and interesting about studying consumers, because it's like they're not like a physics equation. You can't exactly predict what's going to happen.
Right. I want to get back to that first research article. I had another thing that really caught my eye with it, but what you just mentioned, I was talking about this recently with a friend of mine. There's this right brain, left brain. That's how I describe it anyway. And we talked about this earlier, of people who study marketing and people who study, in my case, how to create the content that markets. Can you talk to that at all about this disconnect? I don't know if you've seen it or what your specific thoughts are about it. Just this idea that we are 2 sides of the same coin, but we act so very different.
Yeah. So the bit of consulting I've done reveals that. So oftentimes organizations or brands or companies, like they've got their goals. It's like, okay, we've got to have our brand in the ad like out of the gate, right? It's like, okay, maybe I understand that you want like people to recognize your brand, but like when it comes to hooking people into a story, maybe that is just a big flash, like this is an ad manipulative intent, right? And maybe one approach could be to like, let's get people hooked into the story and then weave the brand in a way that feels a little bit more organic, so those are 2 like I guess different ways of coming at the problem of how do you create a story-based ad with different goals.
I think creatives are guilty of seeing the thing they create and not being willing, at least early on in their career, to like kill their darling, so to speak. Like they hold on very tightly to this thing they created because they're proud of it. And on the other side, the people who are more business minded, who like right brain, left brain, like you have the analytical side, they see numbers. They want to see numbers change. They want to see engagement. They want to see the ROI, and they don't understand fully what the creative side of the house is looking for or thinking about. And like these two just, I mean, I could talk about this forever. I think there should be more of a concerted effort in education broadly to bring those two sides together.
For sure. I mean, this is like, the whole like buzz of like cross-functional teams and, not just within business, but across like the creative aisle too. It's almost a different language. Yeah. But I do agree, like together we have a whole brain rather than just like the disparate parts, but it is so hard to put those two sides together.
Yeah. And sometimes I find that the two sides aren't even knowledgeable that the other one exists.
Oh no.
Yeah, they just think they can do it all themselves.
Yeah. Hubris. Well, great.
Yeah, hubris. That brings me back to that study. One of the studies within that research, you found that marketers often rely on gut feelings, and I just talked about this. We can be susceptible to creating something and being proud of it, and because we feel proud, we have that feeling, we just go with it. But you found half of what they believed didn't match what actually worked. What do you think that is? Were they wrong, or what might be some other factors at play?
We interviewed managers to see like what they thought was going to be the most effective or persuasive, or, basically, like wanting to go to the practitioners and assuming that the practitioners in the field would have a really good sense of, like what works better and what doesn't.
Right.
Yeah, some of them did have a really good grasp, but I think we all get siloed, right? Like we see what happens maybe if we're like a sales manager for cars, like maybe the way persuasion works there is a little bit different than if you're an influencer brand or a lifestyle brand and an influencer that's driving that. So yeah, I think we get a little bit of myopia that is just by virtue of being like a single human with one set of experiences, that we can't know everything, right?
Yeah. I think that's interesting because I do make a lot of, I try not to, I try to be conscientious of it, make a lot of decisions based on this feels like what's working in the content landscape, so let's roll with it, and not really considering like looking at any of the analytics. And I'm curious what you think about this too on that topic. People like to, especially in the business world, like not talking cinema or anything like that, talk about ROI, analytics, putting content out there and seeing the kind of engagement you get, likes, clicks, follows, that kind of thing. What do you think of, this is a super vague question, but what do you think of when you think of that approach? Like, is that valid, I guess?
I think this is a really interesting question to ponder. I think, you hear about data-driven decision-making.
Right.
I think another way to think about it is data-informed decision-making, rather than just like, okay, this did really well on social and I'm going to try to replicate it, right? You can be aware of how things go, but I also think that there's you got to be true to like you or your brand or your values or whatever. And maybe like initially you're putting out content that is like, you feel like really like true for you. But it's like not doing well on social. I'd say like that's better than going, okay, this is going really well. Let me just because like the mask you wear eventually becomes your face. So it's like if you are just trying to pander to the masses and get, like following, clicks, but you for forgetting your original reason for existing or like doing the thing that's core for you, like
that spark. Yeah,
then you lose it. So I think there's a balance there.
I talk about this all the time with other people who do photography and videography, specifically videography. You can put hours of thought and pre-production into something and release that in tandem with a video that someone shot on their iPhone, took almost no production or time to plan, and the one that took virtually no preparation blows up, and the one that you put all this time and attention into, and then it makes you step back and wonder like, how does this actually how do
What's the reason here?
Yeah, like I can't make sense of why what succeeds does and doesn't. And I feel like a lot of marketers are stuck in that cycle of like having very inconsistent data.
And there's something to just be said about like the vicissitudes of consumers. Like there's even research showing that the time of day matters, right? So like the weather matters, you know? So what you ate for lunch matters. So
Yeah.
it is sometimes tough to parse signal and noise, right? So like even then I think like that's where it's like if you're chasing the numbers, you know, to the extent that you can figure out what drove those numbers, great. But like maybe it was something completely outside of your awareness, what you're thinking, that led to the engagement of like, you know, maybe there's something in politics that like happened to coincide with the release of that video or something. So
and it's almost worse when it has nothing to do with you. I think most of the time it has nothing to do with you. Unfortunately, algorithms exist. But like somebody shares your content and now it blows up and that's the reason it happened, but you don't have that support going on forever. So it's like, how do I now sustain this? It's fun to talk about marketing and content creation like it's easy, but it's not, and it's never consistent, or doesn't seem to be until you get to a certain level of consistency or just a large enough audience. But I think it just comes back to story. Like the more you lean into that, the more you talk about people in your organization, people in your community, and why other people should engage with that, seems to trump thinking about any of those other variables that contribute to content being or marketing efforts being successful or unsuccessful.
I agree. I mean, it's a messy world out there, but it's like, yeah, you can think, is it drone shots? Is it like special effects? It's like, okay, you know, maybe that does something, but I do agree with you. Like the consistent thread is like good stories always cut through the clutter. So, right, like kind of like a best brass tacks, best principles sort of rule.
Yeah. Do you think, based on your research, talking to managers, that nonprofits, for-profit businesses are utilizing storytelling effectively? Are there common mistakes you see? What does your research into storytelling in that marketing capacity tell you? What does it look like?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of missed opportunities. It's often not used well. I'm thinking in like a leadership capacity. Like we can think about really great leaders who do a good job telling stories, like, you know, Steve Jobs, Warren Buffett. Like these are like some great political leaders, orators, tell stories. But when I think about like internal marketing, right, like getting employees to follow a leader, I mean, oftentimes it's just telling a compelling story that gets people to rally behind you, rather than like a, you know, here's our, you know, we're producing at this level, or like, you know, here's our benchmarks for the quarter, way to go, like you hit them. You know, it's like telling a story that gets people to believe and want to mobilize behind a leader. Exactly. Yeah. So we think there's a lot of missed opportunities there. I do think very often when it comes to brands trying to sell their products, we often resort down to just like functional attributes and features and touting, like, you know, it's a new and improved widget, whereas, you know, that's great and that will work to some degree and for certain types of products, but like, does it give people like a real reason to connect to that brand or the founder, or like, you know, to get curious and, you know, develop more of a, like, I guess just sort of emotional connection to that product and brand? I see a lot of missed opportunities there. You look at ads and so often it's just like, you could have told a story. You didn't have to like give us the you know, nitty-gritty details about how like it's so much better than competitor B.
Right.
So I see that often. I think sports franchises are great at telling stories. Like a lot of people, so I'm not a big sports fan, but my husband is.
Same.
And like you can, the sagas behind some of these different teams and, you know, the longstanding rivalries, and like I think that's what really fans buy into. So if you look at just like what is really popular in mass culture, there's like stories behind it. And so I think like marketers could really take a page out of, you know, these kinds of entertainment brands.
Yeah. So my first job out of college, I worked for the Boise Rescue Mission. And that's really easy to tell the stories of the people there at the mission and get donors to give money, to donate, to make that place function still. Maybe it's a little bit harder when you go over to like the deodorant side of the house, and then
Sure.
like Old Spice is super entertaining. Like we think it's funny, and that's why people that's what I at least associate with Old Spice. But then I think about can you use story to tell product to sell products? And I think the answer to that is yes. And I think of specifically Nike or different shoe brands, because yeah, like Hoka, Nike, Saucony, like you name Brooks, you name a running shoe, and I mean take your pick, whichever one fits your foot best. And I think they know that to an extent, but when you look at their marketing, they talk about the characteristics of the people who use their product. And I think the hope there is that you will identify or think those things of yourself. And therefore, because I am a go-getter, because I wake up early, or like all these things associated with like working out, you identify with one brand. And that's not because one was better than the other. That's because they told you a better story and made you identify with their product.
For sure. And like that's also where the celebrity endorsement comes in
Sure.
too, right? It's like, oh, this like person that I really admire, you know, they're doing this and I can be a little bit like them. So it's like, yeah, like a kind of a story
Yeah.
that you're telling yourself. Yeah. Because functionally
Yeah.
these products are all the same, you know?
Right.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's like maybe one has like different shoelaces or something, but no.
And that goes back to the community side of things too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they not only see the things that company touts as being important for that kind of athlete in themselves, they also see a community surrounding that brand that they want to be a part of. And I think a lot of those product brands, if they're doing things well, have a community associated with them. Nike again, for example.
For sure. One ad that comes to mind, you know, Apple doesn't make a lot of ads, but they've got this one called The Underdogs, and it's like a little vignette story. It's not like a classic ad, but you see this story of a team of people at work, and they're underdogs and they want to launch this product, and you just see them like working together, and then you're rooting for them, and then at the end there's a cliffhanger, and really it's just, you know, you see them using their iMac or whatever. It's like it's all seamlessly woven in, but it's like this is content I actually want to watch. It's interesting, right? And it's like the products are speaking for themselves. So
right, they're not telling you what they can do, they're showing you what they can do.
Exactly.
And they're not even like, it's not like a tutorial form. It's just like, this is the life we live with these products.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that lifestyle is kind of what sells, that lifestyle marketing.
I mean, this is such a silly example. I see Lululemon everywhere, right? Like they're like a classic lifestyle brand of like the athleisure yoga lifestyle. And, you know, even if you're not doing it yourself, people like that and they're drawn towards it. And consequently, they buy their $100 yoga pants.
You're like, the person did look like they were having a lot of fun.
They did. It was almost worked on me. Yeah.
Would I have the same amount of fun or be half as in shape in Target yoga pants? I don't know.
Tempted to try it out.
What's one of your favorite research findings you've come across about storytelling and how it works on us?
Yeah. So this is maybe it's favorite because it's top of mind right now because I'm working on the revision for this paper, but it's kind of counterintuitive. So I'll ask you. So you have to tell a story in verbal or written format. You can look at both sides. So let's say I'm telling you the story and trying to persuade you, like the classic relationship between a marketer and the consumer, right? But you can also look at how me telling you the story then shapes my beliefs. So it's like I could tell you a story about going to a restaurant, like, oh, I went to Fork last week, this happened, da-da-da-da-da. And you can look and see, actually, like, does that impact my opinion, right? Like the act of me telling the story.
Reinforce your opinion.
Exactly. Like it can do that. So there's like two actually kind of like audiences when it comes to storytelling. There's been a lot of research looking at the audience side. And when you ask this question of like spoken versus written, kind of like most of the research shows that spoken is more persuasive because we've got like more emotion, more just like channels of expression. Like people become more engaged when they hear spoken versus just like reading the story.
Okay.
Now, if we look at the opposite side, does me speaking the story or writing the story, which one has more of an impact on the reinforcement? And I won't put you on the spot, but I will tell you what when we ask people that question, most people will say, oh, speaking, right? Because it's like they assume it's the same way as the audience effects. Like I'm getting engaged in the story, right? Like I'm speaking it. But our research consistently shows that it's actually the opposite. If I write out my story, think about like writing a consumer review versus talking about it, that has a stronger, like more polarizing effect on me. So if I had a good experience, I'm like, yes, I will definitely go back there. Or if I had a bad experience, I'm like, no, that was the worst ever. I will never return. Speaking kind of dampens it. And the reason why we find is if you're writing it, you actually have more space to get drawn back into it and deliberate about it and relive it.
Okay.
Versus when you're speaking, you're kind of like performing in a way, right? Like you're paying attention to like, how are my hands being placed? Like, what is my voice like? And it kind of actually distracts you away from the content a little bit. So I thought that was an interesting finding.
I'm thinking psychologically about that as well. When you write or when you read, most people are reading things in their own voice. Unless I know what you sound like or unless I've heard the person writing speak, it's just me. Like, what else do I have to go off of? And so because you're reading it and assuming you trust yourself, reading a review in your own voice, so to speak, kind of starts to build up this sense that, yeah, maybe this is a product I need, or yeah, maybe this idea is correct. Maybe, yeah, like just reinforcing it, like the fact, like I wrote this, like it's like concrete, it's out there, it's in my voice, this is true, versus the spoken ephemeral, you know, like that's and like
possible.
Maybe somebody speaking and giving a review that way or a testimonial. I don't know. There's all sorts of reasons why something doesn't resonate, from like body language to tone of voice to how they look. And none of that is present in writing. And so it kind of strips away all of those things that might distract you from the substance of the message. And it's just giving you the message when you're writing versus listening to a testimonial.
For sure, yeah. So it's like, it's one of these important questions I think businesses are facing, like with different modalities of communicating, right? And so it's like, if we want consumers to consume, we've had someone come to our restaurant. How should we advise them to like write it? Should we advise them to talk about it to their friends or whatever? And I guess if they had a positive experience, you want them to write about it. If they had a negative experience, we don't want them to say anything at all, but
Have you read Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller?
Yes, it's been a while, but yes, like where you want to make the consumer the hero or something.
Right, it's the hero's journey. You're just adapting that age-old trope to marketing.
Yeah.
I talked about that a lot when I was applying for this job, and how you're reaching out to different demographics for grad school, undergrad, and you're trying to maybe that's too bold of a statement to say like make them the hero, but you're trying to validate them, and then you're trying to say, hey, we see that you're looking for something, and we're here to help, and this is where it can get you. I don't know if you've done any research on that kind of storytelling or what kinds of stories appeal to consumers and their psychology.
So it's great because there's great in the sense that there's like lots of research to be done in storytelling, because there's so many different like structures of stories, right? But the classic hero's journey, I do think that does resonate. This is not my research, but I know that there's a paper on that recently, where if you get people to think about themselves in terms of like the hero in a story, it has positive implications for their well-being. So this is less in the realm of like business, but they start to think about themselves as someone who can overcome challenges. There's a project I did that looked at it's a fancy Greek word called eudaimonic storytelling, and it's just like meaningful storytelling. So there's lighthearted, fun storytelling, whimsical storytelling, right? Like quirky storytelling, and then there's stories about like this was my mom's like watch, and it really is meaningful to me for these reasons. So things that kind of like touch deep values and meaning in life. And we did this study that looked at which type of storytelling drives product valuation. So I don't know if you've heard about the Significant Objects Project, but there was this amazing project, and this is old at this point, where these people took a bunch of just garage sale objects like keychains, light matches, and things, and had content creators write stories about these things and then put them up for sale on eBay. And to see, like, how does attaching a story, and everyone knew it was fictional, by the way, like, how does attaching this story to this object drive value? And in fact, like, people will pay, it turns out, like $25 for like a golf ball or something like that if there's a good story attached to it. So it drove this idea of like, well, what do different types of stories lead to different valuation? And in fact, so we found that the stories that were like more meaningful led to higher valuations of these like meaningless objects than kind of like the funny stories. So
yeah, that's every family heirloom.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
It's the story attached to it.
Yeah.
It reminds me of this. You could probably find it on YouTube. This guy selling his Honda. It's like, this is not even that long ago, but it's like a 1980 Honda. Like, it's pretty old. It's got like 300,000 miles on it. And he takes it out and gets like drone footage and makes like a car commercial for this car that's probably evaluated at like $1,500 on KBB, and produces this amazing thing, attaches this story to it. I think he sold it for like 10 grand.
Power story right there.
Power
Amazing.
of storytelling.
That's awesome.
I was just blown away. Yeah, and that goes back to, again, story and overthinking the thing that is going to get people to engage with your content, with your business, and see themselves as a part of that or the community that you espouse. So I want to get to the application and maybe a little bit of the ethics side of things. We've established the importance of storytelling. Why should business majors care about storytelling? How can it be useful to them as future managers, marketers, entrepreneurs? What if they're not going into consumer-focused business? Is there such a thing?
Well, yeah, great question. I don't know that there is such a thing.
There's a lot of questions there.
There's always consumers, and lots of questions. I will say one place where everyone can use this, students especially, in an interview context. Storytelling is a great way to connect with an interviewer. Why do you want this job, right? Like, if you can tell a good story, like, that'll make you stand out immediately. So being able to practice the kind of like who you are, what you value, what you can do, where you, like, in a story wrapper rather than just listing your skills. I think that's super
how
critical.
You've applied a skill, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, tell us about a time where you had conflict at work, like you have a story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's in story format. So I think it's relevant for everyone there. And then when it comes to just like trying to get other people to do the thing you want them to, like oftentimes as a manager, you have a team of people that you need to lead, or you need to motivate, or you need to like, you might need to get people to buy into your like, you know, hey, I want to like, you know, adopt this platform within our organization. You know, you have to tell stories like showing the benefits of that platform, right? Or like how it can make someone's life better to get your colleagues like interested and invested in it. So it's just a great communication tool that can help you achieve your goals, right? Yeah.
And it's still curious to me that I don't know that I learned a lot about that in the communications department.
Well, we don't really teach it in the business school either, so.
Yeah, but it sounds like that's what you're doing. Like we're here, we're talking about the power of storytelling.
Sure.
Like this should almost be, we have that Plus Business, and this isn't a plug for that, but a way to invite people into some aspect of business to tack that on as like a certificate or something to whatever their degree is outside of the School of Business and Economics. It seems like that would just be a good opportunity to just bring everybody together and be like, storytelling matters to literally everybody, and for a lot of the reasons you just mentioned.
You're motivating me to like propose a special topics class. I've never done that, so maybe this is the one.
Can I audit classes here?
Can you co-teach it?
Am I qualified to co-teach it? I don't know.
Yes.
I would love to. I'm so fired up about conversations about storytelling because like it's so powerful and it's so simple. And every time we like to overcomplicate marketing, all you have to do is kind of draw yourself back into that frame of mind. Like, storytelling is king. What story is right in front of me that is going to compel people to engage with the things I care about?
Amen.
Let's see. Going way back, before I got into marketing and I was just taking pictures and creating videos and not really thinking about any of the marketing concepts surrounding those things, I was very apprehensive to pursue any kind of career in marketing. And it took a while for me to get over that. I kind of saw it as disingenuous, like maybe not leaning on storytelling, but leaning into like there's a motive behind the story being told. And you get kind of like, I'm a pretty big skeptic as is. And so it took me a long time to get over that. Like, there's the mantras, like, everybody's selling something. Marketing felt like a means to an end. Sometimes it is. But I've learned that those ends aren't always as nefarious as I once believed them to be. So here's a bunch of other questions. How do you talk to your students about ethics in storytelling?
Yeah, so I'll say I'm similar to you, and like my earlier reticence about marketing and wanting to drop out of my program was linked to that, because it does seem like it's often used to sort of these nefarious ends, it feels icky.
It's like, I know we want to sell something, but I don't want to take advantage of people.
Yeah.
Like, I want them to do this not out of manipulation, but out of like a genuine interest to be a part of something.
I agree. And I think like the marketing like theory, when done correctly, it's focus on the consumer, what are their needs, and then design something to meet that need, right? Like that's kind of like the whole like marketing 101 of like how do you design a product? You don't like make a product and then go force it down their throat and convince them that they need it, right? It's like meeting a real need in the marketplace. So that's when I think about like storytelling and ethics. Like, are you representing your subject matter faithfully, right? Like this is not twisting reality, right? Like, are you depicting the people in the organization like as they actually are? Are you showing the product, in a way that is like true to the product and like it's actually performing? You're not bringing in special effects, right? You're not like so yeah, there's that, back to that A word, and like the authenticity word. Is it like true in multiple senses of the word?
For some reason, when I was typing up this question, I thought about, you ever see those like late night ads where they're not like Billy Mays or anybody like, do you remember Billy Mays?
Yeah.
Like those loud infomercial people, but I think of specifically the ones where they're trying to sell something, and to sell it, they're showing alternative products and how people use them horribly, and it's always some like over dramatic, like, are you struggling with, I don't know, like it always results in them doing something that should have never been done with that product in the first place.
Throw it in the blender kind of
thing. Yeah, like, do you not know how to cook? And they put like pancake mix in a blender or something. It's like, they would never do that.
It's so
like,
cheesy.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like, it feels like disingenuously cheesy, not like ironically cheesy.
Almost like also you're like not honoring me as an audience, right? It's like, you think I'm that dumb? Come on. Yeah.
I know how to make pancakes. You put them in the toaster.
I only eat waffles.
So we kind of talked about how you maintain authenticity in storytelling. Do you talk at all about, I don't know if this applies, like fallacies to help them identify shady marketing, thereby teaching them to avoid it as a means to build, and this is huge for me, consumer trust and confidence?
So for sure, I guess one of the points I try to drive home is, like, when it comes to success with marketing at all, like, you do want to build a relationship. You don't just want a single purchase. Like, the churn and burn is like terrible for your bottom line, because customer acquisition costs are actually really high. So if you can get one person to try your product or service or whatever, like, you want to keep them with you rather than try it once and then go like, okay, actually this didn't do what I wanted, and then like have to keep getting new people in the door. So it makes for better business, like, honestly, when it comes down to like, so building the loyalty. That's the goal, rather than like a single purchase.
What's one simple thing anyone can do to become a better storyteller, even if they don't feel naturally good at it? How do they nurture that creative energy? Because I think there absolutely is creativity that comes with maybe not just understanding your story, but being able to articulate it.
I agree. I mean, storytelling is one of these crafts that you can hone over your lifetime. I think like a simple formula, if someone's thinking about like an interview or just talking with friends, storytelling it can be very simple, right? Like there was an event, think about what happened before, and then think about what happened after, and there's got to be conflict in there somewhere, right? Like
rising action, climax, the standard cinematic
exactly.
story arc.
Yeah, it's so like a story of like I woke up, had my breakfast, went to work, and came home. Like that's a boring story, right? So like, where is their tension? Where is their conflict? Get concrete in that moment and describe that, right? That's I think like if it really happened to you, it's oftentimes very easy to like go back to that moment of like, and then the power went out and I couldn't turn in my assignment or whatever it is, So that's, I guess, just one.
Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of ways you can build that. Watching movies, I guess.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, a lot like just study the things you're already consuming, like the stories that you're already using to motivate you to live a certain way or to buy a certain thing, maybe.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, get curious about the things that you like, the stories that you like. Like, what is it about that? And then try to model that. Yeah. Do you have a favorite story? Maybe from back when you were a child or something, whether it's a book, movie, ad, that does a brilliant job of pulling people in, or just one that sticks with you. And then the follow-on question, which I think is really important, is why? Because I think a lot of people can identify something that compelled them to feel a certain way, going back to like educating, entertaining, emoting. Like it made them do one of these things, but they don't know why. Like they can't break down the structure. Yeah. So like, is there a story from your childhood or something in recent memory that sticks with you, and why was it so effective? So this is one book I read. It's not like a novel. But it's got story all throughout it, and it fundamentally, I guess, changed how I thought about the act of running. We've talked about running shoes a bunch, so
nice.
The book Born to Run. I don't know if you've heard of it
they made a movie out of it.
I don't know. Maybe they did.
Maybe
I would watch that. So. I should watch that. I was never a runner. I don't know why I read this, but I did. And then that, because of the story of like the Tarahumara, like we are fundamentally built to run. This is like how we've evolved. And then also there are all these interesting like side stories about like the development of like the athletic shoe industry and everything. But like it really changed my mental model around like, this is a thing I could do, really? Like, and then because I believed that, then I went out and I trained and I ran a really slow marathon, but I ran it, right?
Yeah,
like,
you ran a marathon.
And then after that, like that, running has become a lifelong hobby. And so it was only because of that book, which changed the way I thought about the act of running. Like the story I was telling myself has like given me a hobby. So,
I've listened to metal music for the longest time. And I really like analyze, I'm a drummer, so I really analyze why I like things, like what aspect of it, like lyrically, compositionally, like what instrument really drew me in. And so I think about these things all the time. And so I've got a friend who's not that way, who will constantly like refer music to me, and it's hit or miss. And then he asked me why. And so then I explained to him, so it's interesting to me that people don't know why they like things or don't know why things resonate with them. Like I feel like there's so much space for that. And so maybe more than understanding why storytelling is of value to you, even as a business student, but understanding why it works so well in the first place and why certain stories that have impacted you worked. Like, how do you break that down and analyze that?
You're asking me? Well,
I don't know. I think does it just come naturally to you?
No. I do. It does not. But I do think it's like it comes from a place of you got to get curious, right? Like you have to like be willing to step back, because there's the consuming of the thing, like the watching of the movie, and then the stepping back and go. Like you could go like, that character was really compelling. Why did I like that character? So just finished watching. I'm so late to the game, but Better Call Saul, that whole series.
I watched the first season. I haven't. It was great. I think just other things started competing with it.
So much
I'm
content.
Also behind that.
I really enjoyed it, but like, when I think about what it is that I enjoyed about it, it's like the layered characters and like I could sit there and pick apart like, well, what is it about that scene or that interaction, right, that like really grabbed me. So
Yeah.
but I don't think that I think you have to exert the extra cognitive effort to go back and do that, and maybe it's only by virtue of like this is kind of like my field that I'm willing to do that. I think like a lot of people are just like content to have the experience, and that's great.
Yeah, sure.
But
Right.
I think it also is it just serves us, because we all need to become better storytellers, to like go that extra layer deeper,
Right.
and like start to pull apart like what is it about that scene that worked or didn't work. Like when
Right.
you leave a movie going like that wasn't so good, why, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was it about that thing? And you're right. Having the experience is enough, and that says something for the artist as well. Like they created this for an experience. Like analysis is welcome most of the time, but that's not why they did it. And I think it comes from my film styles and genres class that I took here. It's why my wife hates to watch movies with me, because I'm constantly like watching one scene change to the next to look for continuity, or I see an actor on screen that I recognize from another movie, and so I'm looking it up and not even paying attention to the movie. So like I've kind of gotten in this place with art, because I am an artist and because I create as well, of analyzing these things I like to become a better storyteller. So maybe that's an idea for another class.
For sure.
Like analytical storytelling, why stories work, and people just bring all of their ideas, all of the things that really resonate with them, and you dissect them.
I would take that class.
That'd be fascinating. That'd be fascinating. And everybody would be engaged, because everybody would have something to talk about. Everybody loves talking about themselves, and especially things that entertain them. If a student is listening and wants to learn more about storytelling, or maybe do research with you, what advice do you have for them? Where do they start?
Well, first email me. There's a lot of great academic literature out there that's really easy to access. You can go to, honestly, I recommend this for any topic. You can go to ChatGPT or Google Scholar if you're leery of the AI, right?
Yeah.
And just type in, so the search words I would use is narrative persuasion. If you're like a business school student and you want to understand this more, a bunch of great articles will pop up, like some of the top cited articles will spring up, and just like, so you don't even have to read the article, just skim the abstract, right? To like get a sense of what that paper is. But also, if people are interested, I have a treasure trove of resources that I'm willing to share. So email me and
Perfect.
I'll zap a bunch.
Just email. All right, last bonus question. I think we've all had a few revelations or aha moments as we've transitioned from undergraduate life into the working world. What's one thing you wish you could have told early 20s Ann Hamby to consider as she took that leap?
Care less about what other people think, and failure is a gift, right? So I think I've learned more from my failures and things that initially felt really bad than successes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Huge. A lot of story wrapped up in those as well. And thanks so much for sharing your time and insights with us. Where can students learn more about you and your work specifically if they're curious to dig deeper? You said email you, but...
Email me, but then also if you just go to Google Scholar, I've got a Google Scholar
That's right.
page.
Yep.
But yeah, if you type in my name, or I think it's linked on the COBE web page too.
Awesome. Genuinely, thank you being on the show. Thank you for your work, your passion in storytelling, and thank you for sitting down to chat about all of it. If you want to learn more about Ann and her work, you can find her on LinkedIn. I'll include the link in the description, or check out some of her published research, like she just mentioned on Google Scholar. I'll include those links below as well, or in the description of wherever you're consuming this. And if you like this episode, don't forget to follow, share it with a classmate, or leave a comment on whatever platform you find yourself on. We'd love to hear from you if you want to contribute and talk more about storytelling, things we haven't covered, because we could talk about this for hours, honestly. It's so hard keeping it concise. We'd love to hear from you. Please engage. We'd love to talk more about story. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.